Risk is a topic many women shy away from and try to avoid because we have a negative perception of it. But any woman who wants to be financially secure, advance in her career, or start a new business is going to have to deal with it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to properly manage risk so it's something you're no longer afraid of. If you've ever been to a financial advisor, then you know one of the first questions they ask you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your risk tolerance? Now, according to the stereotypes, women don't like risk and we prefer to err on the side of safety. So we have low risk tolerance, which really means we're timid. Meanwhile, men who are bold and daring have high risk tolerance. They ooze self-confidence. High risk tolerance is the realm of gamblers, venture capitalists, and entrepreneurs. It's for all those men who believe high risk, high reward. This is how we're taught to see risk, so it's no wonder women shy away from it and then get left out. We don't become the leaders who forge new technologies or start new companies. But when I get asked this question, I always wonder, why can't I have higher returns at lower risk? Because when I go to work, that's when I'm asked to produce. Why should I settle for a low return if a higher return is possible? That seems foolish. Likewise, why should I take on a big risk when there's a high probability that I could lose it all? That also seems foolish. So to me, this chart doesn't do anything except give men a way to measure their manliness. Risk tolerance doesn't mean anything because what really matters is risk management. As businesswomen, risk management is a skill we must master, and it's a skill that will distinguish us from men because too many of the movers and shakers in our workplaces are still caught up improving their risk tolerance. The first step in risk management is identifying all the risks associated with our endeavor, because there can be a lot of them. Then we need to know who owns them. Now, a big mistake people make is they make assumptions about who owns the risk. Then they find out they assumed wrong, and what started out as a little risk is now a big one. Once we know all the risks we own, we need to know how big they are, what's their probability of happening, and their possible impact. And if we don't know their size, then we determine how much risk we're willing to accept and put boundaries on it, and monitor the risk so we make sure it stays within those boundaries. There may be some risks that cause us to walk away, and we should never be afraid to walk away. But the most dangerous risk is the one that tempts the gambler. They offer to take on a risk at a very high price and gamble that it will pay off. It's a great way to make a lot of money until it isn't. Next, we want to mitigate our risk, and that's just a fancy way of saying we want to make it smaller. The first way is to pass off the risk to someone else. We want to outsource or subcontract the work to other entities who have the expertise and resources to do the work and reduce the risk associated with it. But we also need to be careful of gamblers, especially those who don't have the expertise to deal with the risk, because if they lose, they're going to take us down with them. The risks we keep in-house are going to align with the expertise of our workplace. And that's really what our workplace business is, the expertise to manage certain kinds of risks. So our workplace expects its employees to have the expertise to manage and mitigate the risks within their area. But even in the best workplaces, one big risk is often missed: the operating systems and workflow, how all the people, departments, functional areas, and outside contractors must work together as one cohesive team. Because if they aren't working together in harmony with each other, lots of problems can pop up, and even low-risk endeavors can lose lots of money. In all of my workplaces, this has been the biggest and most consistent source of uncontrolled risk. It's where most of our losses came from. And men, because they like to work within their own area of expertise, they were often blind to it, or they didn't know how to deal with it. So for women, this presents a unique opportunity to step up and take ownership of a risk in a way our male colleagues can't. Because to mitigate this risk requires us to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate with all of our colleagues to fix the problem. And when we do this, risks decrease while results and teamwork increase. With experience, we learned that risk isn't something to fear. Risks are simply problems that need to be solved by teams of people through communication, collaboration, and coordination. And when we see them this way, we become comfortable with risk because now we're experts in risk management. This is Dot Callahan asking you to help me turn the woman in the room into the women in the room. Sign up for my newsletter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or find the Woman in the Room on Facebook. It's up to you. Just keep watching and sharing my videos to get advice from a woman who's been there, dealt with that, and knows what works.